Hello and welcome back to Red Points Academy. Today we're going to be talking about building an IP portfolio. We'll be taking a look at how to register each type of intellectual property at both the national and international levels. We'll also be taking a quick look at the classifications for these registrations and give you some general advice for making this process go smoothly. So let's start this off with trademarks.
Trademark. Quick how-to. Thank you, Bruno, for the introduction. Trademarks. They can come in the form of words, letters, and numerals, as well as drawings, symbols, or 3D features. You can even get trademark protection for sounds, smells, and colors. There's a lot of variety within trademarks, but at their core, they all do one thing: identify a product or service as your intellectual property. So, how do you get them registered? The first step is to start local. Even if you plan to get trademark protection all around the world, you really need to start the registration in one country. So head over to your national or regional trademark office to submit your application, or visit their website to do it online. If you're in the United States, this is the US Patent and Trademark Office. If you're from Europe, you can use the European Union Intellectual Property Office, and so on. Each country will have a national office for local applications. Don't worry, we'll get to the international applications in a moment. You should expect to wait about a year between first submitting your application and having confirmation that it's been accepted. The cost of registering trademarks varies a lot, but as a general outline, registering a single new trademark, the name of your new business, for example, will cost you about $100 to $150. Once this registration is finished, you'll have it for the next decade. There's some variation in how long this protection lasts, but 10 years is usual. Once it's up, you can simply apply to have it renewed again and again, as long as you continue to use it. Territories. Once you have a national trademark application done, then you can start thinking internationally. The best way to do this is to use the Madrid system. By using your local trademark, also known as the basic mark, you can streamline your applications in the other countries where you want trademark protection. Simply reapply for international trademark protection with the same IP office you applied for local registration with. At this point, the World Intellectual Property Office will review your application. If accepted, it will be recorded in the International Register, and other national IP offices will be notified of your new trademark. Over the next year or so, these national IP offices will review your application based on their own legislation and notify you once a decision is reached. To be clear, you need a national or regional trademark application completed, but it's not mandatory to wait for your trademark to get approved before you apply for an international trademark. Niche classification. Trademarks aren't simply registered as a generic product. Each registration falls under a specific category within the niche classification. This is an international agreement that divides trademarks into 34 classes of products and another 11 classes of services. There are classifications for everything from pharmaceuticals to musical instruments, furniture, insurance, and more. So when you apply for trademark registration, you'll need to know which class your products or services fall into. The World Intellectual Property Organization has a full explanation for each class on their website, so make sure to give that a read before you start your own process. Trademark strengths. At this point, I'd like to remind you of the trademark strengths. There's a scale of strengths for trademark names. In general, the more distinct and unique the name is, the easier the mark is to protect and retain in the future. These make a big difference in how likely your trademark is to get accepted and how likely you'll be to win an illegal battle down the line. The strongest trademarks are called fanciful marks. These use words that have no significance outside of the product they represent. These names have likely been created for the purpose of the business and wouldn't even appear in a dictionary. Think of Kodak as an example. After fanciful marks, you have arbitrary marks. These are made with pre-existing words, but ones that are totally unrelated to the goods provided. The tech giant Apple is a perfect example of this. Apples have nothing to do with computers or phones, so the mark is arbitrary and strong. If Apple sold apples instead, the trademark would be very weak. The next strongest level is suggestive marks. These marks only hint at the product being offered without making explicit reference to descriptions of the product. Consider Microsoft, an invented word combining microprocessors and software. The name suggests to consumers what the products are, but still uses a distinctive, unique name. Descriptive marks are considered weak. These marks simply describe the product being sold and are often unlikely to have their registration approved. Quick print for copy shops, for example. And finally, you have generic trademarks. These marks can be seen as an unfortunate effect of a successful company. These tend to be strong marks originally, but over time become synonymous with the actual product. Think of escalators, trampolines, or videotapes. At one time, each was used as a trademark for a company, but later suffered from what we called genericide and lost their right to the trademark. So when creating branded names for your company, product, or service, it's important to remember this scale of trademark strength. The more original and abstract the trademark is, the easier it is to successfully register the mark and also keep the ownership down the line. So that wraps up the section of trademarks. Next up is Jordi with patents. Design patents. Quick how-to.
So now we move on to patents. We'll be splitting design patents and utility patents into two sections, since their rules and registrations differ pretty significantly. We'll start with design patents, which are also known as industrial designs or design rights. We'll be using the terms interchangeably here, since the three are used commonly in different territories. Industrial designs protect the aesthetic or ornamental aspects of a product. This includes the shapes, colors, and patterns of a product, be they two-dimensional or three-dimensional. The types of design covered by industrial design are pretty extensive, including chocolates, clothing, kitchenware, pharmaceuticals, and more. For the actual registration, the process is very similar to that of trademarks. First, you will need to find your national or regional IP office and submit an application for local protection. There is quite a range in the price you can expect to pay for a design patent. You can expect to pay anywhere between $190 for a microentity up to $760 for a large entity. Within the European Union, you can expect your rights to remain intact and enforceable for up to 25 years, as long as you are renewing it every 5 years. If you are in the United States, new design rights registered will be active for 15 years, without having to renew them. Check your local IP office for details if you plan to register outside these regions. There is some variation in how long industrial designs remain granted. Generally, 10 years is the minimum, with many countries offering longer periods as a standard, or they might have a system where repeated renewals are needed to keep the protection active. Once the process for local registration is finished, then you can start thinking internationally.
Territories, the Hague system.
Design patents use a system called the Hague system for dealing with international registrations. You can think of this as the industrial design equivalent of the Madrid protocols for trademarks. By using one industrial design application, the Hague system allows you to file in other regions much more quickly than applying individually each time. There are 73 nations currently signed up to the Hague system, with more joining each year. Using this system cuts the right registration to a single application, in a single language, with a single payment to make. So it's a real must if you are looking to expand internationally, or even just to fight counterfeits in other countries.
Locarno classification.
Just like with trademarks, products protected by industrial designs are divided into classes and subclasses. This is known as the Locarno classification. This agreement divides its products into categories, 32 classes and 237 subclasses, to be exact. The World Intellectual Property Organization has a full list of the Locarno classification online, with explanations for each class.
Utility and invention patents. Quick how-to.
Now, we'll cover the other side of patents, utility patents. These are the protections that cover new, innovative creations that offer a solution to a problem, or a new way of doing something. These protections, as with industrial designs and trademarks, cover a huge range of products, so patents can protect things from footwear to typewriters, and from sewing machines to fusion reactors. Many complex products often are protected by a single patent. A new style of car may have patents protecting most of the individual parts inside, the wheels, the AC system, the adjustable seats, and so on. In short, if an invention is useful and new, then there's a good chance that it can be covered by utility patents. Some countries further divide utility patents. In China, for example, there are separate protections for utility patents and for invention patents.
Territories, Patent Cooperation Treaty.
So, again, we arrive at international application for rights. Like design rights and trademarks, the process starts by registering the patent locally at your regional or national IP office. Once that step has been taken, then you can start looking internationally. Patents also have an international agreement to help you register internationally. The Patent Cooperation Treaty, often referred to as the PCT, is an agreement of over 150 countries that lets you apply in many countries simultaneously. This has to be done within 12 months of filing the first patent application. So it's a good idea to plan your strategy ahead before you even apply for the first local patent. Think about which countries are a priority to have patent protection, because the longer you wait, the more difficult it will be to get your patents approved.
International Patent Classification.
Utility patents are broken down into classifications. Just like for trademarks and design rights, there is an international agreement governing this, the International Patent Classification, set up by the Strasbourg Agreement. The difference here is that there are 70,000 subdivisions of patents in total. So while a regular person could apply for their own trademark if they spend a little time learning about them, the same can't really be said for utility patents. It really is imperative that a patent lawyer is involved in the registration process. And now, we arrive at the final type of intellectual property for today, copyright, which will be introduced by Bruno.
Copyright.
Copyright is the IP that protects artistic works. This covers a wide range of creations, like novels, poetry, films, music, paintings, sculptures, and many others. Copyright is different to the other IP we have talked about today. The biggest difference is that copyright doesn't require formal registration. Creators are automatically granted the protection upon creation of their work. However, if you want to start enforcing your copyright against people copying your work, then registration will be recommended. You will also want to publish your creation online somewhere. You might have created something years ago, but if there is no proof of it in public, it will become difficult to prove it's your creation. Registration also helps when selling your rights to others. Copyrights are best registered online by finding the website of your national IP office. You can also register by mail, but this can take up to 2 years to process. Registering a copyright will cost around $30 to $50, depending on the country of registration, and you should expect this to take anywhere from 3 to 11 months. Copyright owners have 2 different rights over their creations: moral rights and economic rights. Moral rights protect the emotional and intellectual investment of their work, while economic rights protect the creator's ability to make money from their work. And unlike moral rights, they can be sold or given to any other person.
General tips.
So let's finish up today's lesson with some general tips and advice for putting together your IP portfolio. If you're not a lawyer, but you're watching these videos to educate yourself on IP, that's great. There's a lot that yourself can do in brand protection, but there are also definitely moments where having a legal professional at your side is a must. For example, as we said in the section on patents, there are some 70,000 subdivisions in the classification system. This is far more than a regular person could expect to know. So get in touch with a lawyer and make sure your IP rights are properly protected. Also, don't forget to think internationally. While your first application will be in your home region, it's a good idea to get consultation with experts in other countries you plan to register your IP. Next, keep the waiting times in mind when registering your IP. It would be a big mistake to submit your applications late in your business development process. You don't want your plans to get stalled because you're stuck waiting for your applications to get approved. There are lots of free tools and resources online that can help you manage your intellectual property, and databases so you can search for existing IP before trying to register your own. This includes the WIPO Global Brand Databases, PatentScope, TMView, and more. We will add links to these sites below. Finally, if you're interested in learning about intellectual property in more depth, there's a lot of great content online to help you. WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, hosts WIPO Academy, for example. This is set up particularly to help developing countries get educated about intellectual property, but they also hold online courses which anyone is welcome to attend. National IP offices often provide free education on their website, which is particularly useful for learning about nation-specific processes and laws. The government website for the United Kingdom is a great example of this. And of course, at Breakpoints we publish ebooks, articles, and host webinars to help people stay informed about brand protection. So definitely give that a look. And that wraps up our lesson on managing your IP portfolio. See you for the next one!